You're welcome to another edition of EduTalk. EduTalk is made possible by the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Education Journal. And on EduTalk, all we seek to do is to break down all things education, from the trends to sector policies, amongst others, to make it easy for you and I to assimilate everything education in Ghana and beyond. You're welcome once again. I am Emefa Apawu, and today we are focusing on the National Schools Inspectorate Authority. We call it NaSIA. That's what we know it for. But what exactly does it entail? What do they do? Where are they with the number of policies and reforms that they seek to undertake? And my guest today is the Inspector General of the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA. He is a man who has risen through the ranks all the way to becoming associate professor. He's been lecturing in schools across Africa with a track record with inspecting, lecturing, amongst others, right here in this country and beyond. My guest today is Professor Tahiru Salifu Azeko. You're welcome to EduTalk.
Thank you very much.
It's such a privilege to have you today, right here on EduTalk. And I know it's going to be an exciting conversation. I trust all is well at NaSIA.
Oh yeah, all is well.
How is inspecting and everything when it comes to NaSIA?
Oh, so far everything's going on well, and I'm happy that the schools are beginning to comply, and I think we can be able to improve the quality of education that we are yearning for the country. Okay.
Well, it sounds like we are going to have a very interesting conversation since they are into inspecting, amongst others. Please do stay with us. This is EduTalk right here on this channel, and I would entreat you to actually spread the word on all our social media platforms, spread the word also about EduTalk. I'll give you a minute to gather round as we talk NaSIA today. All heads of schools, parents, teachers, and even students alike. We'll be right back. I am Emefa Apawu. This is EduTalk. Please do stay with us. You're welcome back. This is EduTalk, and Professor Azeko is my guest, Inspector General of National Schools Inspectorate Authority. That's NaSIA. That's my guest for today. You're welcome once again. Thank you so much for staying with us. So let's talk about school quality assurance. That's where we'd like to start off with. But before we get into school quality assurance, I'm sure on a broader sense, when it comes to NaSIA, what exactly do we do?
Yeah, so quality assurance in its first place is just a mechanism put in place to systematically ensure that schools adhere to standards. So if you look at NaSIA, our mandate is to develop, publish, promote, and enforce the highest quality education standards in all private and public pre-tertiary schools. So what NaSIA does is to make sure that schools adhere to the standards. And we do that based on our inspection evaluation framework.
Okay, so let's talk about your ability to balance that regulation and the school quality assurance, amongst others, because people see NaSIA as though is that, and even the name Inspector General, amongst others. So people feel that like you're likening it to the role of the police, amongst others. Really, how are you balancing that to ensure that whilst you look for that quality assurance, you're also looking out for the schools themselves?
Yes, so when we go to the field, we make the school to understand that we are not here to arrest them. NaSIA are friends of the schools.
Okay.
So we are here to ensure that we give recommendations to what you are lacking so that you can improve upon them. So we have the school license management system that called the SLIM that we usually use to do the inspections, where we embed all our inspection tools in it. There we look at the teaching and learning, look at infrastructure, look at other parameters to just ensure that the schools are up to task. So sometimes when we go to the field and we realize that there are some issues, we also ask them to also lay a complaint through our complaint management system.
Okay.
So we are just there to ensure that we assess the school, know what they are lacking, give recommendations to the appropriate stakeholders and donors, and then they can intervene.
Oh, okay. Well, it brings me to the issue about compliance and the fact that schools are properly licensed and have all the requirements that they need to have. Because as parents, we always wonder, the school that you're taking your child, is it properly licensed, such that you finish school and then in the end they tell you that whatever you're able to get from that school is not recognized. as of maybe mid-2025, for instance, from your checks, what does it look like in terms of schools being fully licensed and being compliant?
Yeah, so if you look at NaSIA's database, we have a little bit over 16,000 pre-tertiary education institutions in the country.
Okay.
And as of mid of this year, we have a little over 4,000 schools that are licensed. Many of them, yes, many of them are yet to renew. So we want to encourage them to try their best to renew, because we are almost 3-4 months for the year to end.
Okay. What would you say is the barrier?
Yeah, so
full compliance.
I think one of the main barriers is that most of the schools don't even understand the mandate of NaSIA. Miscommunication was a key. So we are currently doing a lot of stakeholder engagement to ensure that we let the school really understand what is the mandate of NaSIA, what do we do, and once that is done, the other few ones are not. That's the main challenge. Once we're able to let them understand the mandate of NaSIA, the other minor challenges will be overcome.
But how are we doing that, ensuring that people get to understand your mandate fully?
Yes, so we have been doing a series of stakeholder engagement with the private union associations, stakeholder engagement with GES, with NACA, with NTC, and the Ministry of Education agencies.
Okay.
So we just had a meeting last week where we put all agencies together, and then we tried to see how best can we collaborate, how best can we work, how best can we improve learning outcome, how best can we solve the deficiencies. Okay. So that's a lot of stakeholder engagement going on. Yeah.
Well, but the key concern, at least 16,000 and 4,000 are fully compliant as we speak, at least 2025. What exactly are the systems in place that we're going to ensure that the rest, my mathematics not too good, but ensure that the outstanding amount or the number of schools that are yet to be fully compliant can do so? What are the sanctions in place? I know sanction is the last resort for you, sure, but what steps are we taking to ensure?
The another factor was also people not really understanding we were doing stakeholder engagement. But again, we're also having other inspections that we do aside our normal compliance. And sometimes we are having challenge of vehicles to go out and then do the compliance inspections. Okay. So lack of infrastructure, lack of vehicles also counts for that low number. So going forward, as we are still engaging stakeholder engagement, the private schools have agreed that they will talk to the proprietors and the schools involved, that it's a necessity for them to really have their school licenses in the system. Okay. So we have given our target till, I believe, as you said, I don't believe in sanctioning at the first, really last resort. So I believe in stakeholder engagement. Then we'll give them a little bit time frame. Then we meet them again. Then from there, we are going to release a communique where we give to institutions deadlines to comply. If they don't comply, per our Act 1023 has given us clear sanctions how we apply to this private school, including imprisonment, including fines, and including other sanctions. So schools that don't comply after rigorous stakeholder engagement, then we have no choice but to apply that. But for now, we still hope that they'll listen to us and then we'll do the right thing.
Okay. I know you've put in place a digital inspection system. We'll talk about it. That is to make sure that schools are able to do this quickly in terms of being compliant quickly. But my concern is the issue about schools in rural areas. You see teachers teaching students who are actually, teachers are not actually qualified and they're teaching students, and the things they are even teaching them sometimes are wrong, amongst others. We focused a bit on the private schools. Let's talk about the public schools, especially those in the rural areas. Are there any really plans in place to ensure that these schools are actually compliant, even though some of them are already under trees, amongst others?
Yeah, so let me make it clear that although NaSIA mandate is to inspect public schools, they have never done it. But we are starting that this September, and we have approval from the ministries. Okay. So this year, this September, we're going to inspect public schools, which means that when we inspect them, we'll definitely know their setbacks, and then we'll have recommendations, then we'll communicate to the ministry and the other stakeholders. So those in private schools in rural area, of course, there are, if you go there, you see a lot of lack of furniture and other, textbook is not there, so many things are not there. So once we have these recommendations, they definitely will make sure that we'll do dissemination. The dissemination will involve some stakeholders that are usually involved in supporting schools. We can involve the Cocoa Board, involve those who have the social corporate responsibility of helping schools. Like Cocoa Board builds infrastructure, MPA is there, will involve all those ones alongside with the Minister of Education. They'll see how we can support these schools to come up.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll touch on your digital inspection system that we're talking about. You have a name for it, SLIMS. That's interesting. How would you say has been your own assessment since you've taken over office of this digital inspection system and its ability to reduce inspection timelines and making it easy for schools to be able to comply?
Yeah, so I think the SLIMS is a necessity, and it's very important we are able to have it in NaSIA, because as you rightly said, it speeds up data collection and process of data. Even when it comes to the main core thing, that which is report writing, the SLIMS even generate graphs. So it is good that we have the system in place. And if the SLIMS also have a future, that also give way for feedback. So imagine inspectors go to the field and they encounter difficulties, they can give feedback, and then we can use that feedback, to resolve the issue. So I think it's very, very important that we really have this system in place. And although, of course, every system has its own setback, but we're always working hard to resolve the setback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say has been some of the setbacks already?
Initially, we're having some few things like mix-up of school data. School A and School B data can be mixed up. Sometimes data can be missing, but we have resolved those things since we took in place, since I came with my 2 deputies. But we are still working hard to ensure that the SLIMS is very, very accurate so that we can get reliable information and results that we needed to get from the schools. Okay.
As we speak, there are schools in parts of the northern region, parts of OT region, parts of the Volta region, very deprived schools, and access to internet is a key concern. So for schools and head teachers like this, they are watching us right now and they are wondering, Professor Azeko, how are we able to assess the SLIMS to make it easier for us as well from where we are, even though maybe we may be a private school in a rural area, for instance, there's no internet. That's our key challenge. How are we able to assess the SLIMS and be part of the digital drive as well?
Yeah, so when we develop the SLIMS, they factor into this.
Okay.
So we have the online mode and the offline mode.
Okay.
So if you're in a rural area where there's no internet, you use the offline mode, then you can do your inspection. Then when you go back to the city, then you can get internet, then you can synchronize. So it makes it very easy for us to even take inspection data when there's no internet in anywhere we find ourselves in the country.
Oh, okay. How about access to the SLIMS report? As a parent, I'm watching you now, and I want to know, I'm now deciding which school to take my child, maybe at the JHS level or the SHS, public or private, I should say. And I'm wondering which school has the safety and then quality for my ward or for my children. How do I assess the SLIMS report to know the status of the school that I want to take my child?
Yeah, so usually after our inspection processes, we have it undergoes certain rigorous process before the report is out through quality assurance. And when the reports are in, we have 2 types of report. We have the aggregate report and then the individual report.
Okay.
The aggregate report is usually sent to ministries for interventions, and the individual report is usually sent to schools. Apart from that, we also publish these reports on our website. So if you're a parent, you can go to the website of NaSIA, and you can get all the reports, or nevertheless, you can still contact the school for all the reports.
On every school in the country?
Yes. Once with that inspection, we have it on our data on our website.
Oh, okay.
Once we go to your school and there's an inspection, we have a report for that particular school. So you can get a report for the whole schools, like one school aggregate, just a summary, or you can get a report for the individual schools that you need.
Okay. What does a typical report on a school look like, for instance?
So the report just gives key indicators like, like for example, the quality of teaching and learning is there, the number of teachers you have, just some basic fundamental things that are needed to help them equip and help them to improve their quality of education. So basically, each of these indicators, we write a report on them based on the findings.
Okay. I know you've been around a lot. I mentioned how you've taught in several schools across Africa and I'm sure around the world. From what you've seen so far, in terms of the schools we have, the safety, quality, infrastructure, everything, as compared to what you've seen elsewhere, where are we, you would say?
I think we still have a long way to go, because you go to most of these schools and they lack furniture, for example. They have dilapidated structures, especially if you go to public schools who are in the villages. Some of the structure are already falling. So I just want to appeal to the government, also appeal to donor stakeholders, that let's try to have interest in some of these schools in rural areas, especially infrastructure and furniture. And I think there's a need for us to work collectively together and see how best we can improve this, especially in the public schools and even some private schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it takes us on a quick break here on EduTalk because I know that there's a lot more to unpack when it comes to what NaSIA is supposed to do to ensure that some of these schools up their game. But from your initial engagement with some of these heads and some of these schools, what really is the challenge for them to bring up the school to the level as it ought to be in order to avoid some of these sanctions?
Yeah, some of them complain of low learners enrollment.
Okay.
They have the few learners in their school, and because of that, they don't generate a lot of financial resources to be able to build the school up. Others too are also still try, although it's private, they still want to see how agencies can come to support them. So they are always be on NaSIA neck, how do you support us and those things. So I think basically resources. Resources is the main thing why some of these schools are not. But again, some of the schools too are also necessary because you see a school in a community that there's no school around. And so imagine there's no school in that community, those children in those communities will not be educated. So although sometimes you have schools that are there and then you go there to inspect, realize that it's very, very below standard. You find it difficult to close down those schools because if you close down those schools, you're going to deprive some children from education. So what NaSIA think of doing is come up with a policy so that the policy can guide the operation of those schools so that we can find a way of not lower the standard, but way of meeting them halfway, then giving a timeline to get to the required standard that NaSIA is expecting from them.
Okay. We are engaging the IGS of NaSIA, that's the Inspector General of Schools for National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA. Professor Azeko is my guest for today, and we're talking NaSIA today in terms of compliance and the quality and safety, quality assurance and safety of the schools in Ghana. Please do stay with us. We'll take a quick break. We're right back. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to EduTalk. EduTalk is made possible by the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Education Journal. And my guest today is the Inspector General of Schools for NaSIA, Professor Tahiru Salifu Azeko is my guest. And sanctions is not the ultimate for him, but he wants to see the general welfare of schools in Ghana. So if you have not you've not been compliant as a school head, he says it is time for you to assess SLIM and make it possible for you to avoid any sanctions. Let's talk about learners with disabilities and schools ensuring that it is easy for them to also not be left out, so to speak, and to have access to education, equal access as compared to their abled learners as well. What would you say so far from where you sit?
Yeah, so far we've gone around several schools, and then we actually observed that many of the schools lack that, especially those who were built for more than 5-10 years ago or more than that. And so we have what we call the inspection evaluation framework, where we use as a tool to inspect when we go around. So we always try to have included that disability in our inspection. So when we go around, we ask whether you have that facility or not. If you don't have it, if you want to look at it, don't have it, then we will have to give recommendations, and then we give you timelines. You see, if the schools are old schools, it is difficult to ask them to modify it. But we will always encourage the new schools try to come on board. We'll have that, because usually a new school come on board, we have to inspect the school before it even gets licenses. So new schools come on board, we have to make sure if you don't have that disability friendly, we have to let you change your plan before we can accredit you, because it's very important, because we are not here to discriminate. We have to support these people. We call it specialized people, so that they will not be left out. Staying
on the issue about facilities, though, we know some children, at least, I've encountered children who decide not to use washrooms when they go to school. Not to talk of those who are in their menses and they do not want to go to school because of the non-availability of facilities, at least washroom facilities in their schools. The issue about first aid kits not being available, dispensary, infirmary. Nowadays we used to have, but these days it is not factored in. Every nook and cranny or every corner of the school now is turned into a classroom because of the non-availability. And then safety concerns, or the safety plan of the school, where they have to do drills and all that. Are all these factored into your inspections? And what are your expectations from NaSIA when it comes to these things that I have listed?
Yes, so all these things, toilet facility, sick bay or clinic, to name a few. In fact, they are one of the key requirements that we look when we go for inspections.
Okay.
Safety is very important. Even sometimes we can even close the school due to safety reasons. If it's emergency, you go to a school, realize that maybe there's an outbreak of cholera or typhoid or a disease that is easily transmitted. And they realize that they don't have the required space to accommodate the situation. We can have what we call emergency close down for some few days.
Okay.
So we have this in our IEF. So when we go around, we realize we don't have one or two this. For this one, we'll give recommendations and we'll give you time. Like we'll come back and make sure that you have it. That one is a little bit different from disability. For this one, if you don't have it, we'll give you time. Like make sure you have it. If you have it, it's not so operational. We'll also give you time like, to make sure it's operational because toilet facilities, clinic or sick bay, safety, there are things that we cannot compromise. So for those ones, we'll give you timelines and say, okay, maybe 3 months, 6 months time, when we'll come back, we expect that there should be improvement in most of these things. That
and if there's no improvement?
No improvement, then we'll have no choice but take decisions.
Okay.
Once a school cannot meet the quality, we have the right to, in consultation with the Minister of Education, the district assemblies, and the regional GS director, we can close down the school until they meet this minimum requirement.
This is where the issue about fairness concerns comes up, which is the fact that I know you're very benevolent to the extent that sanction is not your, immediate measure that you put in place. So some school heads will say, since their inception, they've never fallen foul of all the requirements when it comes to NaSIA. But there are schools that are always falling short, yet they're always giving grace period upon grace period upon grace period to improve the situation, sometimes never improves. Are we not at a point where we have to start putting in place maybe a scorecard system, a rating system, where you know that this is the best school in terms of conforming to all the guidelines and requirements, such that when I know, then I know that, okay, this is the first 10 schools in Ghana, first 20 schools in Ghana, then we know where to go as parents.
Yeah, so this is something that's in the pipeline.
Okay.
In fact, we have thought of it. Even this year, we're going to have Best School Award this year.
Oh.
And we'll do it yearly. So we have to make sure that we have to rate the schools. So as we do our inspections, we see certain people and we rate the schools, and then so we can even advise parents as to which school that they can send their award to. So it's sometimes on the pipeline, and this year the award scheme will come, and next year we'll tighten it further.
Oh, okay. We look forward to the National Schools Award system. Then we can all advise ourselves. But let's talk about the inspection findings. We've talked about 4,000 schools being compliant, 16,000 yet to be fully compliant, still in the process. All the inspection that NaSIA does in terms of your contribution to policy in education, national education policy in Ghana, and supporting the ministry to actually work towards that, what would you say has been your role in all this? So,
per the Education Regulatory Body Act, Act 1023, NaSIA mandated to ensure that our report findings, we have to give a copy to the Minister of Education, to the Minister of Education. We have to give a copy to Parliament Select Committee on Education. We have to give copies to relevant agencies, GES, NTC, pre-tertiary, and others. And if you look at the Minister of Education, if they are going to allocate resources, they usually rely on NaSIA report. If infrastructure, let's look at the history of infrastructure, schools that lack infrastructure. You don't want textbook, you don't want furniture, you don't want teaching and learning. So our report actually we utilized by the ministry for resource allocation to these schools. So it's important that we usually conduct. That's why we have to extend this inspection to public schools so that we can give the minister the clear picture of how this public schools look like in terms of quality of teaching and learning, in terms of resources, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of furniture. So the ministry have been relying on NaSIA's report for most of these resource allocations.
Okay. For the avoidance of doubt and some clarity at this point, NaSIA, your mandate, let's say, is it from KG all the way to tertiary? At what level when it comes to schools, or every school is under your watch?
So NaSIA is schools under the pre-tertiary sector.
Pre-tertiary.
So from KG to the basic,
okay,
to the junior high school, to the senior high school and the Tenka institutes.
Oh, that's interesting. And once you continue this inspection process and reforming the schools and ensuring that they all comply, we will definitely be touching base again with you. But just before we leave, your stakeholders are your audience right now, both parents, students, teachers, all of us. We are looking out for Professor Azeko and your team to be able to excel. What would you tell us in terms of what you are, the plans you have ahead for us? Your final words.
Thank you very much. So I want them to know that there's a new thing we have. This is a new NaSIA. That's a new thing. This is a new NaSIA that we are now. And my plea is that this new NaSIA will do all the possible it can to support schools. We are not here to close down schools, but we're here to see how best we can improve schools based on our recommendations. And this new NaSIA, again, will go further to talk to donors, the government, and other stakeholders to see how best they can support schools that are struggling, to see how best they can support schools that need support. So I urge all schools to try to also help NaSIA by complying to our standards, by doing what they're supposed to do, by registering and licensing their schools, and at the same time also renewing their licenses. Like I said earlier on, we are still having a lot of series of stakeholder engagement with them, and then we will still do that till the end of December. But going forward next year, we will try to enforce that. But before we do that, you see, we try to see how we can address their concerns. And their concern were that, NaSIA, what do you do for us? Some of them say, you have been taking a lot of money, what do you do for us? Then now, we are organizing 2 training programs for them this year. We are also organizing Best School Award for them this year. We have also distributed teacher manuals for this year. And to make it very great, we have committed with GES, and GES have agreed that if there are any training program they are having with the public schools, they also involve the private schools. So I think NaSIA have done something great that they should give it the benefit of the doubt. So we are praying for them to also comply with us, because from next year going on, we are going to be on the ground and make sure the right things are done.
We're grateful. That's Professor Tahiru Salifu Azeko, Inspector General of Schools for NaSIA, our guest on EduTalk. Another edition of EduTalk comes your way same time right here on this channel. Please, in the meantime, do spread the word with the hashtag EduTalk. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Prof, we're grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.